This video is going to be a little different. I wanted to talk about growing up Mormon and also growing up gay. Ever since I can remember, I was attracted to guys. I can't think of a time when I realized it or it just came to mind. I feel like it's always kind of been there. I've got 2 sisters and 4 brothers, and they are all married to wonderful people. So my brother Chris has 4 kids. My sister Lorene has 6 kids. My brother David has just 1. My sister Amy has 3 kids and 1 on the way. My brother Josh has 4 kids. And then there's me, the gay uncle to 19 nephews and nieces. Growing up, I idolized my siblings. I wanted to be just like them. I went to church every week. I was an Eagle Scout. I went on a mission for 2 years to Alaska. Basically, the Book of Mormon musical is an actual account of my experience as a missionary. Just kidding. I haven't actually seen the musical, so I can't say that. The plan was always to stay in the church. And so I didn't feel like I ever really needed to come out to anyone because it wasn't going to be a part of my life. I just kind of struggled with it internally. When I decided to go on a mission, I made a deal with God where I said, if I am 100% obedient and do my very best, then I'll be straight when I come back. When that didn't happen, I decided that I just hadn't found the right girl. And so I dated lots of girls. I thought as long as I date a girl long enough for her to learn to love me, then it wouldn't matter when I told her I was gay. That was the strategy, at least. I felt guilty dating them because I felt like they deserved somebody who could love them in every way that they deserved, and I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do that. And so after dating someone and me starting to really care about them, I would break up with them, knowing that it was their best interest. And I did this for 3 years after the mission, of just trying to make it work and then finding out that it wasn't going to work and just starting this cycle over and over and over. Probably 2 years after, or maybe just a year after my mission, I told a bishop. He was the first person I ever came out to. He was actually awesome. So he has a gay son. He talked about how him and his wife eventually learned to accept not this gay son's lifestyle, but him as a person, and also the person he was dating, who he's now engaged to. It was a struggle and still is a struggle for him and his wife, but he talked about how the whole family still loves him just the same, and they know that the person he's dating deserves love and respect. I talked to him about it enough that he told me, this is a big enough deal that you should share this with your parents. They deserve to know so they can help you while you go through this. And so I did not want to do that. I told him that I didn't really didn't want to, but if you thought it was that important, then I would. One day after a family dinner, all of my family had just left, and all the nephews and nieces, and I went down to my room, kind of wondering about my future and my family, and if I would ever have something like them. And my dad came down, and he could tell something was going on, so he asked me if I was okay, and I just told him, "Dad, I'm gay." And he was very surprised. So some people in my life kind of knew that I was gay. That's what they told me when I came out to him, but my dad did not. But then I quickly assured him I'm still active in the church, and I plan to stay that way, which was absolutely my plan at the time. The fact that I told him that I was still gonna stay in the church made it okay. Well, I told my dad that I wasn't ready to talk to my mom yet, and so my dad told me that he would keep it a secret for me. I was still seeing my bishop regularly about this, and he told me that it would be really hard for him to keep it a secret from his wife. And he was like, "I can't imagine what it must be like for your dad." And I knew he was right, and so I talked to my dad, and my dad had been itching to tell my mom too. And so we picked a day just to sit her down, and we'd both tell her everything. And so that's what we did. It was the hardest person I've ever come out to, but we sat her down, and I told her and quickly reassured her that the plan was just to stay in the church and to do my best. Whether that meant marrying someone, which at the time we were saying that we hoped I was going to be able to meet a girl I could be attracted to, but we all agreed that it would be best for me to be honest before marriage, obviously, that this was something that was a part of me. I continued to date girls, and it was a little bit easier because I could kind of vent to them when I was dating somebody and I was worried it wasn't going to work. I could just talk about how I don't see when I'm going to be able to tell her, and I don't know how this is going to work. Eventually I found a girl that I thought it might work with, and so I pursued it with everything. We had only been going on dates. We were going on dates multiple times a week for 2 months, and then eventually she kind of drifted away, and I could tell that there was a disinterest there, and so I backed off. But that one was really hard for me because I felt like that was my opportunity from God to marry a girl and to have kids and to live a life like the rest of my family. I went on a little trip with some friends to San Francisco. On this trip to San Francisco, I decided I would download Tinder. And I wasn't actually going to meet up with anyone. I was just going to message people and see what that was like. I discovered that it was thrilling, that people really liked me. It came so much more naturally than when I was trying to date girls. There were people who were really interested, and I was really interested in them, and it was sad because I knew I wasn't going to be in San Francisco in a week. But it totally changed my perspective. And before then I thought that maybe I was bi. But then after that San Francisco trip, I was like, that was clicking so well that there's just, I'm gay. I'm not bi. And so I came back and I couldn't get rid of the app. And so I started dating guys. And it was such an amazing experience. And I met so many awesome people that I'm good friends with now, that I met through dating and through Tinder. I was still living at home, and I knew that I was going to have to talk to my parents about how I was dating guys. But I wanted to somehow ease them into the idea of it. I didn't know how I was going to do that and what the best way was, but I was just going to take my time, try to brainstorm, and come up with the best possible solution. So that's what I shot for. And I met this guy who I really liked, and I wanted to start dating him. And so I started kind of breaking off things with other guys that I had been going on dates with. And one of the people that I tried to break things off with made it very difficult. So after I tried to break things off with him, I was coming back from a game night at like 2 o'clock in the morning. He was parked outside of my house, my parents' house, where I was living. And I had never told him where I lived. Anytime we had met up, we had been meeting somewhere very public. So it scared me. And so when he got out of his car, I was like, hey, like, how's it going? And like, how do you know where I live? And his response was, it's easy to find anyone in Mormon town, whatever that means. And he asked me if we could go on one last date as friends. And I was like, okay. I agreed because I wanted to end things on good terms, especially since he knew where I lived and he knew that my parents didn't know I was dating guys. So he kind of had that leverage. On this one last date, we went on a drive to some lake. The whole way there, I was like very cordial. But he was talking about how like why we were gonna work and that we need to keep dating and things like that. And I was like, on the road drive back, I was just like, listen, man, this is why it's not gonna work, and I really need to end things. And so as I was trying to end things, eventually at the end of the night, it never died down. Eventually I just got out of his car and I was like, I'm not gonna argue anymore, and I just left. And then I sent him a text that he was starting to scare me and that we just needed to stay friends. He was like, okay, we'll just be friends. And I was like, okay, just give me like a week before we like hang out or do anything. And so a week went by, and then he started sending me a bunch of texts, a bunch of Snapchats, and he was like, hey, you said we were gonna be friends in a week. I was on a date at the time with the guy that I was hoping to start a relationship with. And so I wasn't responding to any of his texts right away. And eventually I get a text from him that just says, hey, I just met your family, your mom and your dad and your sister. And I was like, no. I immediately left the date with the guy that I was on and started driving home to try to assess whatever damage he had done. And so when I got home, I found out he hadn't actually like told anybody that I was dating, but they were like, who's this guy that was asking for you? And I was like, oh, that's my friend. I found out that he was on his way back to my house, and I knew that I couldn't let him have that kind of leverage on me or in my life. And so I knew I had to tell my parents. And so I was actually not at my house at the time, and I called my dad, just sobbing my eyes out, told him that I had started dating guys. And that was definitely the most like difficult phone call I've ever made. After this whole experience, I had a talk with my parents, and I decided with them to try to date girls again. I attempted to start dating a girl, and I started to really care about her. And knowing that she deserved somebody who was going to be able to love her in every way, I broke things off again. But this time I told her why. And she was the sweetest ever. If it would have worked with any girl, it would have been this girl. After I started trying to date girls and breaking things off again with another girl, I knew that I couldn't go back to dating girls. It was going to be guys from here on out. One of the reasons that I started this channel is because me coming to terms with myself started through YouTube. I found different people coming out, and that there was a happy life after coming out, and that they had people who loved and accepted them, knowing them completely. You would think it would be obvious in today's world where it's more widely accepted, but I feel like for most people, and myself included, you feel like you're gonna be the exception. I feel like I got even more love from people after coming out to them, and like 90% of the people in my circle are very religious. But coming out is also something that you need to do at your own time, or at your own pace. You need to do it when it's right for you. I was worried that my family was gonna hate me when I came out. I had one family member that I remember talked about how he always viewed being gay about the same as being a pedophile. And hearing things like that affects you as a kid. But to this day, this family member has been so loving and supportive about me coming out. So my parents' reaction was definitely to tighten the reins, and I can't really blame them for that, because I know that they were doing it out of love, and they wanted what was best for me, which makes it hard to be mad at them for, even if they at times reacted like not the way I wanted them to. But now my relationship with my parents is really good. They've even met people I've dated, and although they don't agree with my lifestyle necessarily, they love me, and I love them, and that won't ever change.